You are listening to This Week in High School Sports on X106. Trevor Mander and Kramer Sansone with you, keeping you up to date on all the happenings in the Northwest Missouri sports world, particularly in the high school sports world. As I mentioned, I'm joined by Kramer Sansone. Kramer, a lot going on in the high school sports realm here around Northwest Missouri. It seems like each week there is more and more stuff as we get into September, and then we'll roll into October in a couple weeks.
Yeah, no, there's a lot going on, such as with golf, soccer, volleyball, cross country. I mentioned golf again. Yeah, a lot of golf goes through at the beginning of the day, so kids have to get out early and make sure you get to the tees and make sure they actually get their schoolwork done beforehand. And yeah, of course, there's also football going on too. There's a lot.
That's no fun to get your schoolwork done. Quick look at some of the stuff that's been going on around here in prep sports, starting with golf. The Maryville Ladies Spoofhounds, they took home third at the Richmond Invitational last Wednesday. They were led by Emily Long, who shot an 81. Laurel Wickersham tied for 12th and shot a 91. On Thursday, the Spoofhounds shot 180 to LeBlancs 212. Central shot a 213, and Lafayette shot a 219. The Spoofhounds took home the quad title at Lake Mazingo. Emily Long, Kylie Dugan, and Hadley Mundorf all shot career lows at Lake Mazingo. Up next for Spoofhound Golf at Chillicothe on Thursday, and they will compete in the Midland Empire Conference Tournament on Monday in St. Joe. And really good for Long, Dugan, and Mundorf to all shoot career lows at a golf course that they should be really familiar with.
Yeah, it's really good to see they go out there and they shoot that low, and can only imagine like what they can do going forward on in the season.
Got to give them some confidence, and I'm sure they're expecting big things in the conference tournament on Monday. Moving on now to what happened in soccer this week. The Maryville boys, they won their home opener on Wednesday by a score of 8-0 over LeBlanc. They were led by 3 goals from Thomas DiStefano. Brendan Ware added 2. On Monday, the Spoofhounds defeated Savannah 4-1. DiStefano, he scored all 4 goals for the Spoofhounds. He had a pretty good week with 8 combined goals. And on Tuesday, the Spoofhounds dropped a 2-1 heartbreaker to Chillicothe in extra time. Up next for them is a match on Monday against Lafayette. Pretty exciting week. I know Tuesday didn't end the way I'm sure they wanted it to, but a pretty exciting week for the Spoofhound boys soccer. And DiStefano had himself a really, really solid couple of matches.
There's always a good soccer player for Maryville. I know when I played soccer for Lafayette, they always had it seemed like everybody on their team can score. And like it's pretty much how this looks like with their team this year as well.
Quick look at some of the cross-country action from this past week. The Maryville boys took home 4th as a team last Thursday at the Platte County 5K Invitational. They were paced by Garrett Doomke's 12th place finish. Up next for them is a meet at the University of Kansas. Not every day do you get to run a Division I school or a Division I facility, but that's going to be kind of interesting for them, and hopefully they can kind of enjoy that experience and Mother Nature cooperates.
Yeah, it's a little different. You don't see that around here that much. It's kind of cool. I mean, of course, I'd like to run around the University of Kansas's not track, but their course that they have in the cross country. But yeah, it's a cool setting for them to run around.
I don't know that I'd like to run in general, but if I did, it'd be cool to run in a Division I course. Now, a lot of volleyball action over the past week or so. On Thursday, Maryville Volleyball defeated Lafayette in 2 sets, 25-23, 25-22. Morgan Steckline had 10 digs and 3 aces. Serena Sundell had 4 kills and 7 digs, all of which came in the second set. Kelsey Scott had 2 aces, 4 kills, and 2 blocks. Some other Midland Empire Conference scores from Thursday. St. Pius X defeated Benton in 2 sets. Savannah defeated Cameron in 3 sets, and LeBlanc defeated Chillicothe in 2. Some of the scores from the 275 volleyball action on Thursday night. East Atchison defeated Union Star in 2 sets. Rockport defeated South Holt in 2 sets, and Nottoway Holt downed Mound City in 3. On Monday, Savannah dropped to Falls City Sacred Heart of Nebraska in 2 sets. And then on Tuesday, Maryville went down to Kansas City and took on Northland Christian. They defeated them in 2 sets. Serena Sundell had 3 aces, 6 kills, and 5 digs. Kelsey Scott had 3 kills. Macy Lowe had 3 kills, 1 ace, 7 assists, and 2 digs. Vanessa Klotz had 5 kills. Morgan Steckline added 3 kills and 5 digs. And the Spoofhounds are now 7-2, and they will next be in action on Thursday when they take on Cameron in Cameron. And they will travel to St. Joe on Monday to take on Lafayette again. Some other scores from around the MEC on Tuesday night. Savannah defeated Falls City of Nebraska in 4. Bishop LeBlond defeated Lathrop in 2. And Chillicothe defeated Cameron in 2 in the only conference match of the night. Some 275 scores from Tuesday night. East Atchison bested Rockport in 3 sets. Nottoway Holt beat Union Star in 2. And Mound City dropped a non-conference match to Mid-Buchanan in 2 sets. So really, really good week for Maryville volleyball. And right now they find themselves off to a 7-2 start. We had Coach Feld on the show last week. Like she said, a really young team, and she's been really proud of how they've progressed. And right now they're playing like a team that could really make a run.
Yeah, they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. There's honestly not much that has faulted them besides those 2 losses that they had. But if they keep going forward and playing well, I could see them taking the MEC conference with ease.
Yeah, and that was their goal coming in, is they want to be able to win that conference. And they felt that Lafayette's a really, really good volleyball program. They were able to get the best of them. They're going to have more opportunities this season as well. But right now, Maryville Spoofhound off to a 7-2 start. We talked to their head coach, Marissa Felt, last week. We'll try to get her back on the show sometime in the next week or two. Do have a couple of coaches lined up for you. Normally we've had 3. Unfortunately, today, due to technical difficulties, we were only able to get 2 interviews for you. We'll hear from the head football coach at South Holt Nottoway Holt, Josh Peterson. They picked up their first win of the season last week. Also, we'll talk to the head football coach at North Andrew. That is Dwayne Williams this year. As North Andrew off to a 2-2 start, but they're not hanging their heads right now. There's still a lot of good games left, and we'll talk more about that later on. But let's talk some football, Kramer. A handful of matchups in the 275. I believe I counted 4 of them in total. Make that 5. What happened in the 275 conference on Friday night?
So Mound City defeated Southwest Livingston 64-14. SHNH.
South Holt Nottoway Holt.
If I would have known that, I would have said that properly. South Holt Nottoway Holt, which I
should have spelled it out, and I abbreviated it.
It's okay. They defeated Platte Valley 60-12. Drew Quinlan threw for 313 yards and 7 touchdowns. Eric Ottman played ball hawk with 4 interceptions. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, South Holt Nottoway Holt, as we'll hear from Coach Peterson later, they're pretty straightforward what they want to do. They're going to run the spread, and they're gonna sling it and fling it. They're going to throw the ball 40, 50, if they have to, 60 times a game. And they're going to rely on people like Eric Ottman to step forward and make plays. He also had 3 touchdowns receiving, so he had a really good day. I think it's safe to say that he was able to find the ball on Friday night.
Yeah, he was very able to find the ball on Friday night.
Yeah, he had a really, really good game, as did Drew Quinlan with 7 touchdowns, and they got a matchup coming up this week with DeKalb.
So elsewhere, East Atchison defeated DeKalb 50-22. Bryson Bywater had 3 rushing touchdowns on the night. It wouldn't surprise me him getting the end zone all the time. Rockport defeated Northwest Nottoway 56-6 with 159 yards by Joey Heron, and Alex Burke threw for 144 yards with 3 scores, and Brock Martin also had 2 touchdowns as well on the night, as the Blue Jays are going to take on East Atchison this Friday. So it's going to be a good game, good conference game for the 2 teams. Oric beat Stewartsville 72-26 in a non-conference action.
Big matchup in Tarkio this week. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the show. A quick look at your 275 conference standings right now. Rockport, they're technically atop of the standings with a 4-0 record in conference play and overall. Mountain City, the other unbeaten team in the 275, they're 4-0 with a 3-0 conference record. Southwest Livingston, 3-1 in both overall play and conference play, as is East Atchison. Stewartsville is 1-3 overall and 1-2 in conference play. South Holt Nottoway Holt, 1-3 overall and 1-2 in conference play. Platte Valley is 1-3 overall and 1-3 in conference play. DeKalb and Northwest Nottoway, they're both looking for their first conference wins. DeKalb is 1-3 overall with the conference record of 0-3, and Northwest Nottoway is 0-4. All 4 of those losses coming in conference play. Kramer, you were in Rockport on Saturday or Friday night. I don't know if you were there Saturday or not. I know you were there Friday nights for their matchup with Northwest Nottoway. Just talk about kind of what you saw from Rockport going into what's going to be a big week for them.
What I saw on Friday was they were running the ball effectively, and they also had their passing game for the first time, like actually working. It's been a while since Burke threw for that much yards, and the fact that he connected with Brock Martin twice for a touchdown. He also got one with Will Oswald as well. For this week coming forward against East Atchison, they just have to make sure they score. They just need to score every single time they are driving down the field. And then, they could easily pull off a win this coming Friday. Well, tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game in Tarkio. Kramer will be in DeKalb for South Holt, Nottoway Holt against DeKalb. As I mentioned, we talked to the head football coach at South Holt, Nottoway Holt, Mr. Josh Peterson. He was kind enough to join us earlier on this week. So why don't we hear from the old ball coach at South Holt, Nottoway Holt? You're listening to This Week in High School Sports on X106.
You're listening to This Week in High School Sports on KZLX 106.7. Time now for a Coach's Corner. And for this one, we're going to go a little bit south and stick in the 275 conference. The head football coach of the South Holt, Nottoway Holt Spartans, Josh Peterson. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Just kind of talk about the first 4 games of the season so far for you guys. What do you know about your team right now?
Well, we're young. I do know that. With that kind of comes some gaps in your play, but I think we're getting to the point now where we're getting those fixed. Our first 3 weeks or the first third of the season, when you start off playing the defending state champions, who are just as good as I think they were last year. That's a tough game to open up with. Southwest Livingston's probably going to, finish second in our conference. Then, we play East Atchison, who there's going to be another top 3 team in our conference. And then we got, we went over to Platte Valley and finally got that first win of the season. But, with the youth, I've seen good things out of us. Our offense, we're able to score points. We've got speed. We've got a good quarterback. Our running backs have been stepping up. So offensively, we're doing pretty good. Defensively, we kind of came to against Platte Valley, and I think when we gave up like about 120 yards of total offense. I'd still like to see tackling get better, but like I said, with those opening 3 games, we knew it was going to be tough, especially with the youth that we have. I think we're starting 3 sophomores and a freshman. So, we're young, but there's positive things ahead for the season, I believe.
You mentioned the really tough schedule you guys had the first 3 games, maybe the toughest in all of 8-man. And do you think this is something that maybe can help your team later on in the season, given that they had to overcome adversity early on?
Yeah, I think, once we saw those, this isn't a knock on some of the other teams that we'll face, because, we still have to play Mound City, but, I think from here on out, we're pretty much even with any team that we play. And, like I said, those first 3 games, that was tough for anybody. I had a couple people ask me, we've had Worth County week 1 since the co-op has started, and I've had several people ask me after week 1, they kind of put it on us. They said, why would you schedule that game? And my response was, why wouldn't you? Just that's the mentality of, do you play in week 1 or do you look to forward to playing in week 14 if you're playing them deep into the playoffs? So, I don't want to load, that non-conference. We get 1 non-conference game. I don't want to play, a team that I know that, we're just going to pad stats and get a victory against. Now, winning is nice, but, I want to get the best teams on our schedule to see where these kids are at. Just that week 1 is the defending state champion, but we're not going to back down from those games, and then we'll continue the schedule.
I hate to go back, but looking at that Worth County game, one thing that sticks out to me is you guys were able, even with a young team against a powerhouse like that, you guys hung with them for about a quarter or so. Did that maybe give you guys some confidence going forward the rest of the season, saying, hey, we can hang with these teams?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, against Worth County and even against Southwest Livingston, our first 2 games, I think we had the equivalent to probably 7 or 8 touchdowns that we didn't convert, either an overthrow, an underthrow, an interception, a fumble, something that enabled us to score where the receiver was open, or, we had just things didn't go our way, I guess. But, that's part of football. We're not going to make excuses, but, we convert those. We probably left 20 points off the board against Worth County, which, that makes it a 70 to 50-some, 40-some game. And then Southwest Livingston, our first 3 out of our 4 possessions were, a turnover, fumble, turnover. So, and those were at like the 2 and 1 yard line. So, things just didn't really go our way the first 2 weeks. So, like I said, our offense, we're able to score. We've left points off the board with our inability to finish drives. But, an 8-man, if you get the track meet. So, if you can score points, you're going to win. And, we're very capable of putting up 50 to 60 every game. Should have. It's just, a few things here and there have not gone our ways, which have enabled us to get to that 50-plus mark.
You mentioned that you have a kind of a younger team than you're accustomed to. Who are some of those guys that have been stepping up for you this season?
Well, a quarterback, I don't know, I haven't put all of our stats in yet, but he's thrown for about 1,200 yards through 4 games. So I think he's gone for 300 in every conference game, and then he went for about 200. I think it was 160, 170 against Worth County. So, our quarterback, he's at almost 1,200 yards passing with, I think, an 18-7, about a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is nice. I'd like those interceptions to get down, but with as much as we throw the ball, that's going to happen. We've got sophomore receivers and tight ends that are stepping up. Dylan Schutz, Dallas Nowling. We're starting a freshman guard, right guard. And then, it's our center's a junior, our left guard's a senior, and then our two big play guys, Reagan and Eric. There are other 2 seniors. So, we're sitting with 3 seniors, 3 juniors, and then everybody else is freshmen and sophomores.
Kind of at the halfway point of the season, I guess. This week will be week 5, so it'll be past halfway. But is there any one particular thing you think you guys need to get better at going down the stretch to be a threat in the postseason?
Defensively, and not defensively entirely, just our tackling. We just don't finish tackling. It's as simple as that sounds. That's what we need to work on, because we've had stops where we just don't finish. So, if we could finish tackling, I think that would, that's a difference right there in maybe 1 or 2 of our losses. If we tackle against East Atchison, I think we're in it. If we tackle against Southwest, I think we're in it. Worth County, that was a different story because they had about 100 to 200 pounds a man on us across the board. So, we tried to tackle. We were just bouncing off. So, those other 2 games, those 2 conference games that we had lost, I think, if we tackle better in those games, we're in it.
In talking to some of the other coaches around the 275 over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of got the vibe that maybe this conference is a little bit tougher than the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot more even. I think Southwest is pretty good. That Anderson kid down there, he's a beast. East Atchison, they've got that Bryson Bywater. They got a freshman, kind of like a halfback, split back. They're McEnany and McAdams. They're going to be good. Mound City's got a bunch of kids. Rockport will still be decent. Even we're not what our record indicates. So, I know people look at, they're 1-3 and they beat Platte Valley. They can't be that good. We're better than what our record indicates. It's just like I said, when you start that many young kids, it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get your groove. And fortunately, we're kind of on a downhill slide of our schedule with, Platte Valley, DeKalb, and Stewartsville, 3 games that I think we should win. Going into Mound City, which will be tough, and then Rockport, which will be tough, and then we finish with Northwest Nottoway. So, I said if we could go, I'd like to go 5-1, and these next, counting from last week, if we could go 5-1 in this middle to last third of our season, I think we're going to get a 2 seed in our district. So, yeah, our conference is a lot heavier at the top than it has been in the past. So, it's good competition.
You mentioned 3 upcoming games you guys will most likely be favored in, and then you get 2 big ones with Rockport and Mound City. How important is it for your team to not overlook these next couple of weeks with Rockport and Mound City at the end of the year?
It's crucial. As a coach, you sit here and you kind of, at the beginning of the season, you kind of, bullet games and say, this one should be a win, this one, as a coach, we say should instead of not be could, because, you know, it can go both ways. But you can kind of just pencil or circle some games that we should win this game. We should win this game. Those two games against Mound City and Rockport, those are going to be huge. You know, I don't want to take anything away from DeKalb, because I tell the kids, hey, we focus on this week's game, but, you know, if we get this one taken care of and next one, that Mound City game, I think, will set the tone for the rest of the season. If we can get Mound City, we should be on a pretty good rise. You know, that had been our fourth straight win going into Rockport, where we've struggled the last 2 years against them. You know, and then going into Northwest Nottoway, who I don't know if they've won a game yet or not. So, I mean, those two games to start that last third of the season, you know, one with Mound City, if we get that one, that would be huge. And then if we could, you know, get the Rockport game and we could go into week 9 sitting 5-3 after a 0-3 start, I think, you know, the kids would have a totally different look, totally different demeanor heading into districts.
Looking ahead to this week, you guys have DeKalb. They've had a pretty tough schedule themselves, too. They played Southwest Livingston close, and they hung with Rockport for a while, but they also find themselves kind of teetering around that 500 range. So what do you expect from them, and what's it going to take to beat them Friday night?
Yeah, and you know, that's what we've been talking about here is we're not overlooking DeKalb. You know, they're a lot better than they were last year. You know, they're big. They run the ball. So, you know, we're, again, tackling. We're going to have to be able to tackle. We're probably not going to be favored in the weight category in most of the games that we play. So, you know, we have to be fundamentally sound. We have to be able to break down and tackle. And then offensively, you know, it's no secret what we're going to do. We're going to spread the ball out and we're going to throw it 50, 60 times and, you know, just continuously try to wear them down with dink and dunks and dink and dunks. And, you know, I think last week Drew was 16 to 23 for 310 and 6 touchdowns. So, I mean, those are the numbers those are like Tecmo Super Bowl numbers that you want to put up. And if we can continue to do that, you know, I think our offense is going to be successful. But, you know, defensively, we have to tackle. If we can get stops, you know, I have the utmost faith in our offense to be able just to, you know, spread it and throw. And really that's on anybody, not taking away from other teams' defenses, because we've been able to do it all season. You know, and against 3 pretty good teams to begin with, we're throwing for 250 plus a game with anywhere from 4 to 6 touchdowns. So, you know, our spread works. It's just defensively we have to be able to tackle.
Talking to Josh Peterson, the head coach of the South Fulton Nottoway Colts Spartans. They will take on the DeKalb on Friday night. Coach, thank you for your time, and best of luck Friday night and the rest of the season, and we'll talk to you down the road.
You bet. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, we're going to take a real quick break. You're listening to This Week in High School Sports on X106.
Welcome back to This Week in High School Sports on X106. Trevor Mater, Kramer Sansone here with you, recapping all the action going on in Northwest Missouri at high school athletics, where we previewed, or recapped, I should say, the 275 conference and talked to the head football coach at South Fulton Nottoway Holt, Josh Peterson. So why don't we transition over on into the Grand River Conference and look at what went on Friday night. Top-ranked Stanberry defeated St. Joe Christian 58-8 on Friday night. Cole Durbin threw for 2 touchdowns and added 2 on the ground. Trey Schieber also added 3 scores. Worth County blanked Albany by a score of 50-0. Jacob New threw just 2 passes, but both were touchdowns. And Caleb Parman added 166 yards and 3 scores on the ground. North Andrew, we'll hear from their head coach Dwayne Williams here in just a little bit. They defeated Osceola by a score of 70-24. Jaden Baker had 188 rushing yards and 2 scores. Ryan Wilmus found the end zone 4 times, and Logan Hughes racked up 102 yards and 2 scores on 15 carries. A big matchup in King City last Friday night between Pattonsburg and King City. This one went to the Panthers of Pattonsburg as they defeated King City 76-30. Stephen Wilhite threw for 5 touchdowns and added 2 with his legs. Trevor Ireland caught 3 of those touchdowns. Cameron Jones caught 2 of them. Brett Eming and Dakota Eaton found the end zone as well. And in non-conference play, Bramer dropped a 60-6 decision to North Shelby. Quick look at your Grand River Conference standings right now. Stanberry is 4-0 with a conference record of 4-0. Pattonsburg 4-0 with a conference record of 4-0. Worth County 4-0 with a conference record of 2-0. King City 2-2 overall, 1-2 in conference play. They will travel to Grant City to take on Worth County this week. North Andrew 2-2 overall, 1-2 in conference play. Albany 1-3 overall, 0-2 in conference play. St. Joe Christian 0-3 overall and in conference play, and Bramer's 0-4 overall with a conference record of 0-2. Kramer, when you look at the GRC, what sticks out to you this past weekend?
Honestly, it's just the teams that keep on winning, such as Stanberry, Pattonsburg, Worth County, and as they're all undefeated still in the season. And with this week to come is a huge week for the Grand River Conference.
A couple of really big matchups. Stanberry-Pattonsburg, one of those two teams will stay undefeated, one almost suffer their first loss. Worth County, King City. So you got the top four right now in the conference. They're going to be doing it out with each other this week, and then really kind of going forward too, because if you're Worth County, you've still got Stanberry, you've still got Pattonsburg. You've got North Andrew as well. Don't count them out. A young team. We talked to Coach Dwayne Williams here earlier on, and we'll hear that interview in a moment. But they're a team that I wouldn't want to count either. In the way the districts line up, that's a team that could maybe make a late postseason surge. So the GRC is always an entertaining conference to watch. I know I was kind of curious at the beginning of the season who would come out of it. I figured either Stanberry or Worth County won. But don't count out King City or Pattonsburg so far.
Just know at the end of this, end of tonight, there's going to be only a possible chance just one team being undefeated in this conference.
That is a strong possibility. And then, like I said, this is an exciting conference to watch as we are just past halfway through the high school football season as week 5. Well, week 5 will officially put it past halfway. As I mentioned, we talked to the head football coach at North Andrew, Dwayne Williams. They've had a powerhouse program over the last handful of years, but kind of a new situation there. Williams inheriting that program this year. Cardinals, they've won a week. They lost week 1, won week 2, lost week 3, and they won week 4. They're looking to go back-to-back this week when they take on Chilhowie. So when we hear from the head football coach for the North Andrew Cardinals, Dwayne Williams, on This Week in High School Sports.
You're listening to This Week in High School Sports on X106. Time now for another Coach's Corner. For this one, we're going to go just down south to the area of Rosendale and talk to the head football coach for North Andrew Cardinals, Dwayne Williams. Coach, how's it going today?
Doing good.
Good. To just kind of talk about what you know from your team so far, about halfway through the season. You guys currently stand at 2-2. What have you learned?
Well, for starters, how tough they are. Our summer was hard. We lifted and we ran and we got ourselves in really good condition. And when I inherited the team, that was a shortcoming. They had kind of let themselves go. They hadn't lifted, and we started a process through the summer that's really paid off for us this season with our conditioning and how hard we work and those kind of things. And that's resulted in some good football for us.
Talk about last week's win over Osceola. You had a handful of players that really stepped up. What did you like from your team last Friday?
Well, the main thing I saw from us was the second half where we came out and outscored them 46-6. And, it was a tight game there in the first half. We kind of had some miscues and a little bit of trouble hanging on to the football and kind of gave a few drives away that we can't really afford to do. But, in the second half, we didn't scream and yell at them or anything like that. We just kind of put it on them and said, you kind of created this mess that we're in a little bit here at halftime, and you've got to get yourselves out of it. And they did that. They did it up front by blocking and running the ball well and then hanging on to it, which is a key part of it. So they did a great job in the second half.
You guys have played a pretty tough schedule. You've won a week, lost a week, won a week, and lost a week, kind of back and forth. What's it going to take to maybe string together a couple of wins and get some consistency?
Well, for us, it's turnovers and tackling better. I mean, some of our problems that we've created for ourselves in those losses is because we're not tackling them very well. So we've put an emphasis on that the last few weeks, and we're getting better at it. And playing good football is the key. We can't always control how good our opponents are going to be. So we've got Stanberry coming up and Worth County coming up here in a few weeks, and those are pretty tall mountains to climb for us. But at the same time, our goal is just to play a little bit better each week. And when those games come along, we want to be playing our best football and see what happens.
North Andrew's been a perennial power throughout the history of 8-man football recently here in Missouri, and a lot of names come to mind when you think of North Andrew. But who are some of the names that kind of have been paving the way this year?
Up front for us, Cy Black and Hunter Grimes and Wyman Wheeler have really done a great job for us up front. And Mr. Grimes and Mr. Wheeler, they don't have a lot of playing experience. They're just juniors, and we've asked a lot of them. And in our backfield, Logan Hughes, he's a senior. He's a name that people know, and he's done a great job for us at fullback. And then we've got a 2-quarterback system we kind of run with Jaden Baker and McKinley Lillard, and those guys have really done a great job of learning the offense, spreading the ball around a little bit. And, you know, we're kind of a 3-headed running attack and try not to have one guy that teams can focus on. And so Ryan Wilmus has also done a great job for us out of the backfield. And defensively, it's, you know, our nose tackle, Caleb Chittum's just done a great job. He's a sophomore, and he's really still learning how to play the game of football. And Logan Hughes at linebacker. And then Jaden Baker's, honestly, I think one of the 2 or 3 best defensive backs in 8-man. And he's just done a great job for us. He had a pick 6 against Pattonsburg for, you know, 78-yard pick 6 in a tough, tight game that really kept us in the game in the first half. So.
North Andrew's been a perennial power in Class 8, man, for quite some time. Maybe not the start that people would envision for you guys, but just kind of what are the expectations finishing the season?
We want to be the best team that we can be by the end, and we kind of started that this summer with the way we were talking with the kids and the program we're trying to put in is we kind of knew we were starting over a little bit. A lot of young guys playing, a ton of sophomores playing, and so we wanted to just keep getting better every week so that by week 9, week 10, week 11, hopefully, we're a team that nobody wants to play. And that's kind of our goal, get things rebuilt. We had to put a whole new foundation in, basically, and it's taken some time, and we knew it was going to take time, and the players knew that. And so they bought in wholeheartedly, and each week we're just trying to be a little bit better, and hopefully by week 10, 11, 12, or wherever we're at, that we're a team that's playing the best football that we can play.
Talk about this conference. You guys have already seen King City and Pattonsburg. You know, unfortunately, you guys it didn't end the way you wanted to, but you still got some tough matchups with Worth County and Stanberry. I don't have to tell you this conference is really difficult.
It is. It's kind of a murderer's row, if you will, of teams. And I don't discount Albany. I've seen them on film as well, and they're playing really good football. Their record of 1-3 is not indicative of how well they're playing right now. And so they've had a similar tough schedule like us. They've had to play all the big boys to start, and plus Mound City had a 275 over there who's got a really good football team as well. And we're hoping, and what we keep stressing to our players is, you know, we are playing a tough schedule, but so is everyone else in our conference. And the goal is that we'll take that tough schedule and it'll make us better. So when we get in some district matchups, you know, maybe we're playing teams that haven't had to play the schedule that we've played, and that's going to benefit us in the end. And you know, the schedule is what it is, and you know, we want to play good teams. And you know, winning an 8-man, you know, big scores and all those kind of things, those are fun once in a while. But in the end, you want to play the good teams and see where you stand, where you stack up against those.
Looking ahead to this week, you guys take on Chilhowie. What do you expect from them, or what have you seen, and what's it going to take to beat them?
You know, we don't have a lot of information on them. You know, they don't do huddle or trade film, typically like the other teams do. And from down south, we do have a common opponent with Osceola. And so we've seen a little bit of them. You know, they've got a real nice quarterback, and they run the ball real well. They run a lot of unbalanced, and they just try to run downhill at you, and they've had some success doing that against teams. And you know, they're going to be a tough matchup for us. And we have the distractions of homecoming this week, which always they send every coach in the country nervous because there's always things going on that you can't control. But we expect Chilhowie to show up and play good football.
Talking to Dwayne Williams, the head football coach at North Andrew, the Cardinals, off to a 2-2 start. They will take on Chilhowie this week. Coach, thank you for your time, and best of luck Friday and the rest of the season. We'll talk to you down the road.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Dwayne Williams, head football coach at North Andrew. We're going to take a real quick break. You're listening to This Week in High School Sports on X106.
Welcome back to This Week in High School Sports. Once again, I'm Kramer Sansone alongside with Trevor Mater. We're talking high school football right now. We talked about the 275 Conference and the Grand River Conference. So let's take a look in the Midland Empire Conference, the MEC. Kicking it off as Maryville defeated St. Pius 56-0. Ben Walker threw 2 touchdowns, both of which were caught by Tate Oglesby. Eli Dowis found the end zone twice on the ground, and Tyler Houchin added a score as well. Looking over to Chillicothe, defeated Cameron 34-8. Savannah defeated Lafayette 65-28, and Benton defeated LeBlanc 39-14. As some standings are shaping up in the MEC right now as first right now, tied with first place right now, is Maryville and Savannah. They're both 2-0 in the conference. Lafayette, Benton, and Chillicothe, and St. Pius, the 10th, are tied at third as they all are 1-1 in the MEC. And then Bishop LeBlond and Cameron are tied for 7th as they are 0-2 in the MEC. So it's a little bit of a dogfight right now for the entire MEC conference of the standings-wise. So there's a lot going on here. Trevor, what honestly this past week stood out to you the most during the MEC battles?
When I look at this now, Maryville, their third consecutive shutout. You know, they beat Harrisonville, then they went out and they beat Chillicothe, and they come out and they beat St. Pius the 10th as well. They have not allowed a point since they allowed 38 to Blair Oaks back on in their opener. Chillicothe, they're able to get their first win of the season. Cameron drops their second in a row, and then the one that really sticks out to me is Savannah. I mean, taking it to what I think is a pretty good Lafayette team. I thought, maybe the top two in the MEC might be Maryville and Lafayette, but I think now you got to throw Savannah in there. They went out a couple weeks ago against LeBlond and put up 83 points, and then come out and put 65 up against Lafayette. So they've averaged over 70 points the last two games. We tried to catch up with their head football coach, Randy Schrader. Unfortunately, technical difficulties on our end forced us to not be able to air that. So I apologize for that, and hopefully we can catch up with him down the road. But right now, just two conference games in, so it's kind of tough to gauge where all these teams are. I think given the history and the way they're playing right now, you got to think Maryville's probably the favorite. But, I mean, Savannah and Lafayette are right there now, too. And with the way Savannah was able to take care of Lafayette this past week, maybe the Savages will have something for Maryville when Maryville comes down there in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's also a great rivalry game for the Spoof Hounds and the Savages. That'll be a great game. Hopefully they're still undefeated in the MEC conference, so that game would actually mean a lot more than it usually does. But, Maryville's looking really strong. But Savannah did shock me against Lafayette. Of course, Lafayette grad, I thought Lafayette would win it, but, I mean, you can't always think that. And it's also been almost 5 years of me being away from Lafayette. So, yeah, the MEC is looking how it usually does, as always.
Yeah, in the last couple of years, we've seen Maryville, Lafayette throw Chillicothe in there as well. Cameron's still looking for their first conference win. They did pick up 2 wins to start the season. They will host Maryville this week, so it's going to be a tough task for them to pick up their first win of the season. Kramer, why don't we just go ahead and kind of jump right into looking ahead to this upcoming week. Got a total of 13 football games that we're going to be paying attention to in the upcoming week. So why don't we start with the 275 conference?
Yeah, as the 275 conference, Rockport is taking on East Atchison at East Atchison. It's going to be one of a great game to watch and listen to. South Holt and Ottaway Holt's taking on DeKalb. North Shelby is at Platts Valley. Northwest Nottoway is at Mound City, and Southwest Livingston is at Stewartsville for the 275 schedule.
Quick look at the Grand River Conference. King City will travel to Worth County. Pattonsburg and Stanberry, a battle of undefeateds. They will take battle on Friday night in Stanberry. St. Joe Christian is at Albany, and Chilhowie travels to North Andrew for a non-conference battle. In the Midland Empire Conference, Maryville is at Cameron. Savannah is at Benton, Chillicothe is at St. Pius X, and Bishop LeBlond will travel to Lafayette. Kramer, when you look at this schedule, 13 games on the schedule, is there any one particular game that you're really excited about?
Stanberry versus Pattonsburg. That's that GRC. I am invested into this conference even more after every single week. I just want to see who can take the top reign as the leader of the GRC, and also Rockport at East Atchison. That's going to be a tough game for both sides. They both are a high-scoring offense, and they are very capable of putting up a lot of points and being neck to neck the entire time.
This one is really interesting to me because Rockport, it's a big rivalry between East Atchison consists of Tarkio and Fairfax. It's a co-op. Tarkio and Rockport are about 8 miles apart, and they've been rivals going way, way back. And it always means something. They call it the Atchison County Super Bowl. And the last couple of years, Rockport has really been able to take it to East Atchison. So I think there's kind of a sense that I've got that this is a year that East Atchison maybe has something for Rockport. And that something might be a young man by the name of Bryson Bywater, who has just been going absolutely absurd each and every week. And Rockport's got themselves a really good defense, but I think the matchup of offenses is going to be really entertaining to watch on Friday night in Tarkio.
And even with the Abbott brothers, either if they play or not, I'm pretty sure there'll probably be a game-time decision during this. The Rockport hopes for them to play, but, I mean, if health concerns are in the way, you want to think of health as safety first. But even with them out, the running back core and the defense core is still stellar for Rockport.
Yeah, that's going to be a really exciting game. We're going to try to get the winning coach from that one on next week. We will try our hardest to get either Ross Hastert or Aaron Behrens, whichever coach comes out victorious. That one's a toss-up. I honestly have no clue which way I think that could go.
They can't end in ties.
No, thank goodness. I think it won't end in a tie. And then I'm with you. The Pattonsburg-Stanberry matchup. Pattonsburg, they've been building towards this. We had their head coach, Chase Roberts, on the show last week. He said, I'm not going to lie. We talk about our long-term goals. We talk about our goal is we want to be one of the last teams playing at the end of the year. But to do that, you got to beat Stanberry. You got to beat Worth County. You got to beat North Andrew. Well, they already beat North Andrew. Now the next test is Stanberry. And I think this is a game that if Pattonsburg's able to go in and get the win, and I'm not going to call it an upset because I don't think it's an upset if they win, that might make them the favorite in the state. If they can go into Stanberry, I mean, you've still got to get past Worth County. But that might make them the new favorite in the state to get to the state title game. And the way their district lines up, looking at it, I think there's a really, really good shot they end up getting to the state semifinal. That is going to be an exciting matchup on Saturday and on Friday. And I don't know why I keep saying Saturday. I think all these Saturday games they pushed back a couple weeks ago maybe messed with my scheduling a little bit. But that is one I'm super excited for. And in the MEC, I want to see. I think Savannah Benton is probably the most intriguing matchup out of these, and maybe Chillicothe St. Pius X. I want to see what Cameron can do with Maryville if Maryville allows any points. I mean, they have it in 3 weeks, so maybe Cameron's a team that can do it. And also how Lafayette bounces back after getting blown out by Savannah last week. So why don't we take a look at the fine folks at Straight Up Sports. Each and every week they compose a Missouri 8-man ranking. So why don't we take a look at those right now. They have Stanberry ranked 1, Worth County 2, Mound City 3, Pattonsburg 4, King City 5, Southwest Livingston 6, Rockport 7, East Atchison 8th, North Andrew 9th, and Warwick 10th. Kramer, you agree? You disagree with these rankings? What do you...
Honestly, I feel like King City is way too high up there in the 5th. Maybe be the 9 or 10. Or North Andrew's fine. But I'd say move East Atchison, Rockport, and Orrick up. Those are just 3 teams right there that are playing outstanding right now. And the fact that Rockport's 4-0 and they're 7th, I don't know. And it's also, if you try to go by points-wise, they should already be up there anyways. They score a lot of points too.
If I had to rank them, and I don't, this is, I guess their job or what they do. I would probably, having seen the box scores and having seen Worth County last year and what they lost, and listening to Coach Peterson from South Holton Ottaway Holt earlier this show, they played them earlier on the year, and like he said, this team might be better than last year's team. They've ran over everybody. I would probably go Worth County 1, Stanberry 2. I believe in Pattonsburg, and I would probably go Pattonsburg, Mound City. And then I would probably throw Rockport in at 5, King City 6, Southwest Livingston 7, East Atchison 8, Orrick 9, North Andrew 10. So, I mean, just kind of a little flipping and flopping. And this stuff will all sort itself out as far as the rankings. And most of these coaches and players, they try to go out of their way to pay no attention to these rankings, and rightfully so.
These rankings honestly don't mean anything.
They mean nothing.
It just depends on who wins the game that night. That's all that matters.
And like I said, coaches will go out of their way to make sure that they don't pay attention to these, because Stanberry's number 1 right now, but they still got to play Worth County, still play Pattonsburg. It doesn't matter what the rankings are; those are 2 really tough teams, 2 really good teams that are gonna clock in and bring their lunch pail and want to go to work and get the best of them. So I mean, you could kind of probably interchange them anyway. All that really matters is who's playing in November for the state title. So
you're very 100% right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I believe that's pretty much everything we've got for this episode of This Week in High School Sports. We'll be back at you next week with another one. We're going to try to get some coaches lined up. As I said, we're going to try to get the winner of the Atchison County Super Bowl. Also probably hear from the head football coach at Maryville, Matt Webb. But But until then, for X106 Sports, this has been Trevor Mater and Kramer Sansone.